Welcome to the Academic Woman Amplified podcast. I'm your host, Kathy Mazak, tenured full professor, mom of three, and firm believer that the culture of academia needs to change radically. Women are revolutionizing academia within institutions that were not built for us. If you're ready to reject the culture of overwork, kick guilt and overwhelm to the curb, and amplify your voice to make a real impact on your field without breaking down or burning out, you're in the right place. And it all starts with writing. Let's go. Hello and welcome to the podcast. Today, I'm going to be talking about what to do when your qualitative research article gets rejected or a painful revise and resubmit. Let's go. Now, today I'm going to be talking specifically about a qualitative research article, but I think you'll find there's juicy advice for everyone in this episode. But I also want to refer you way back to episode 9 to listen to more advice about how to respond to writing criticism in general. And in that episode, I kind of lay out my step-by-step plan for how I usually process feedback that I get from a revise and resubmit or other criticism of writing. All right, let's dig in. I have 5 things to do when your qualitative article gets rejected. All right, number 1, think about fit. I mean, this goes for everybody, but it especially goes for qualitative researchers. Now, qualitative research a lot of times is interdisciplinary. So a tricky thing about placing it into different journals is if it's going to fit there. Because a lot of times there's a journal, there's overlapping disciplines in your article, and you gotta line up the disciplines in your article with what the journal's purpose is and the title and what they're publishing. So you really have to think about fit. And there are some journals that on the surface, your qualitative work would fit into, like topic-wise, it would fit into that journal, but they have an aversion to qualitative work, okay? So that can be a fit problem as well. So you want to think about fit. So I would say you definitely want to think about this even before you get rejected. And here's how to do it, okay? So that maybe you can avoid this in the rejection stage. You want to go and you want to look at the board. You want to look at who is the editor, what kind of research does that person do? Look at the board, okay? What kind of researchers are those people? Then you want to go and you want to look at the last 2 to 5 years of what's been published in that journal. And you want to look and see if your work would sit nicely next to that. Would the authors of those pieces be excited to read your work? That's going to help you determine fit. Now, a lot of rejections, so if you get what we call a desk reject, a lot of that has to do with fit. Because it's the editor saying, this isn't the direction that I really want the journal to go in. So that's one interpretation of a desk reject. So you want to kind of prevent that from happening by doing a lot of research into what the journal is publishing and what kinds of work the editor seems to like. But also know that if you get rejected, it might be for that reason, that the editor's like, no, I kind of want to go in a different direction. It may not actually have to do with the quality of your study at all. It might, but it might not. So number 1 thing to do when you get rejected, and I'll also say, or if you get a painful revise and resubmit, I want you to think about fit. Okay, number 2. If you get rejected with some feedback or you get a painful revise and resubmit with a ton of feedback, the second thing to do is analyze that feedback. I want you to really look at what people are saying. And again, you could go back to episode 9 for this part, but let me tell you that there's different types of feedback. And what you want to be aware of as a qualitative researcher is some of this feedback kind of ontological. Is this feedback that I will never be able to push back against or convince the person that I'm right or that I'm worthy, or not excuse me, convince them that my writing and my project is worthy? Will I not be able to do that because they hold a fundamentally different belief about how knowledge is made? So qualitative researchers bump up against this all the time. Researchers who only value double-blind quantitative data, or experiments, those researchers are sometimes never going to be convinced of the value of qualitative work. So if that's what's going on in your feedback, your best bet is to submit somewhere else, because you're not going to be able to change how that person believes knowledge is made. That's too deep of a change. And if that person is reviewing for that journal, then maybe that's just not a good, again, it goes back to fit. Maybe that's not a good journal fit for you. So what to do? Number 2 is analyze the feedback that you get. Is it ontological or epistemological? Is it in its very core, is it rejecting qualitative research in general? If that's true, then it's probably not the journal for you. All right. Number 3 is to dig into interdisciplinarity. So again, as I mentioned before, so much qualitative research is interdisciplinary. So an example, my research is at the crossroads of education, linguistics, language acquisition, bilingualism. There's lots of ways that it could go. Science learning. That's like a ton of disciplines that kind of cross, and my research work sits in there. So when I'm choosing a journal, I have to think about okay, well, do I want this to go into a bilingualism journal? Do I want this to go into a bilingual ed journal? Do I want this to go into an education journal? English teaching journal, science learning journal? There's lots of places that the work could go. And so when you get rejected, it's a good idea to really look at all the disciplines that your work could possibly fit into and make sure that the next place you submit it is a good fit in the nature of the interdisciplinarity of the work. So to make this a little more concrete, what I want you to do is I want you to look at the piece that just got rejected. I want you to make a list of all the disciplines where this piece could fit. And then I want you to think about, okay, well, what is the best next place to submit this work? And I bet once you do that thinking, you're going to have a lot more options for where to submit, because you're going to see how it could fit in different places. Now, you might have to revise to give a certain discipline kind of more focus in the writing in order for it to go to a specific journal. But what I'm asking you to do here is to really think about the nature of the interdisciplinarity of your work and how that lines up with the journals that you're trying to place your work into. Okay. Number 4 of what to do when your qualitative article gets rejected is to double check rigor. Now, if you didn't hear last week's podcast episode about my years-long challenge of designing and expressing qualitative rigor, then you're in for a good story. So go back and listen to that one, but I'll give you the very abbreviated version. So I was trained by the best qualitative researchers, really top-notch people. My study won awards, my dissertation study. I was not flying by the seat of my pants. Yet, when I tried to publish this certain piece of my dissertation, I was just not able to express the rigor that was built into the study. It was there. It probably needed to be better than it was at the point of collecting data, but I also wasn't expressing it well. So in last week's podcast episode, I talked about this kind of too long journey to figuring that out, that it really took doing another study and publishing other qualitative work after having gotten some really great but hard to hear feedback on that original piece that I'm referring to. After I got that feedback that was all about rigor and design and expressing rigor, I had that feedback in the back of my mind as I went to develop my next line of research. And after having done that and published off of it, years later, when I turned back to publish that original piece, I was able to do it. But it took me so long to really figure that out in a deep way that I could use it to my advantage to design better studies and publish more quickly, really. So I want to talk to you before I get to number 5. I want to talk to you about a shortcut that if I had had this back in the day, I might have been able to publish my work faster. That article might not have languished for 7 years in a drawer. And that tool is a course created by my friend and colleague, Mayra Quintanilla, called Qualitative Research Blueprint. Now, Mayra has a company called QualiQ, and that company is devoted to helping make qualitative research better, specifically in the health sciences. And next week, I'm going to be talking to her all about that journey, like how she came to be so committed to making qualitative research better for health scientists. But for now, what I want to tell you is that her course, Qualitative Research Blueprint, is open today. And if you're on my email list, you will be getting an email about it today. But also, if you're not on my email list, you can go to the show notes for a link to find out more and to enroll. Enrollment is only open for a short amount of time. And there are some great bonuses that I'm offering if you enroll using my enrollment link that, again, you'll find in your email if you're on my list or in the show notes of this episode. In the Qualitative Research Blueprint course, you will feel confident about moving your qualitative health research project along and achieving your desired impact by learning how to design, implement, and write rigorous, impactful qualitative health research. Now, Mayra uses health research as the examples in the course, but other types of researchers have taken this course to improve their qualitative methodology and rigor and have had success. So know that if you're listening and you're a qualitative health researcher, this course was designed exactly for you. And if you're some other kind of researcher but is interested in either improving your existing qualitative skills or learning qualitative research that you didn't do because during your grad program, that wasn't part of your grad work or wasn't part of your dissertation work. And now you realize that you need to have a qualitative component to your grant project or something else that you're doing. This is a great course for that, even if you're not a health researcher. But like I said, Mayra is a health researcher. So that is very, like, her area is specifically that. But I'm going to tell you just a little bit about the modules in this course. And then I'm going to tell you the bonuses you can get if you enroll through me. And then I'm going to tell you number 5, the last thing, number 5 thing to do when your qualitative article gets rejected. Okay, so in the Qualitative Research Blueprint, you will learn what it took me 7 years to learn and a lot of grad study. And that is so much about defining rigor, embracing rigor, strategies for rigor. And then on top of that, you will learn actually how to collect the data. So the course talks about ethnography, phenomenology, qualitative description, and mixed methods, interviews, focus groups, sampling, recruitment, ethics, coding, theming, interpreting. So it gets into data analysis and strategies to write up your qualitative findings. So truthfully, like, this is exactly what I needed when I was struggling early career. And I would say it would just maybe have offered me like an extra level of qualitative training at a point in my career that I didn't have access to training anymore because, right, I had graduated my doctoral program where I got most of my training originally. The course also has a community aspect to it and really values the individual. It's not a one size fits all course. So there will be kind of interaction and helping you to figure out your qualitative research project and developing you as a qualitative researcher. So it's an awesome course if you are a qualitative researcher who wants to get better at the research that you do, or you are a quantitative researcher or a mixed methods researcher, and you know that you need to up your qualitative research game or include qualitative research in a project that doesn't have it right now, then this is the course for you. There's a bonus pack that I'm offering if you enroll through my link. So the first thing is a fast action bonus if you enroll by Friday. And that is a recorded workshop called 5 Strategies for More Qualitative Publications. So if you enroll by Friday, you get my recorded workshop, 5 Strategies for More Qualitative Publications. It's juicy and wonderful, and you definitely want it. And then even if you don't enroll by Friday, you get my bonus bundle, which includes first access to our newest course, Writing Sprint Blueprint. Writing Sprint Blueprint, I'm so excited. I'm recording it like this week. It is a short course about how to design, plan out, and implement a 2-week writing sprint. So I use writing sprints to move my writing projects forward at any moment in the writing process. You can do it at the beginning to kind of, get a lot of energy into a writing project. You could do it in the middle. You could do it at the end to get your project out the door. The writing sprint is a really great thing to do to build momentum and push projects through. So you'll be the first one to access, not even going to be on sale when you get to access the Writing Sprint Blueprint, my newest course. So that's part of the bundle. And the other piece of the bundle is a workshop that is only available inside of my Navigate program, but I'm offering it as part of this bonus bundle if you sign up for the Qualitative Research Blueprint through my link. And that is my funding formula workshop. So the funding formula is my method for asking for and getting what you want from your university. So if you want funding for a grad assistant, if you want funding for professional development, if you want funding for anything that you can think of, the funding formula is the way to ask. Okay. So I teach you my method for asking, and it includes a template letter that you can alter and fill in and use in your institution to ask for funding for things. Of course, the funding formula also helps you to up your funding game in general, but it's specifically designed for asking your institution for stuff. So if you're asking for things and not getting it, you're asking wrong and you need the funding formula. So that's my bonus pack. If you enroll by Friday, you get 5 strategies for more qualitative publications. The other 2 bonuses are first access to our newest course, the Writing Sprint Blueprint, and the funding formula workshop and template letter. All right, so let me get on to the last part of our 5 things to do when your qualitative article gets rejected. Number 5 is try again. So not surprisingly, you don't want to just do what I did when my article got rejected, and put it away and not work on it for years. You want to try again. And to be specific, if you get a desk reject, like a reject with no feedback, I wouldn't read so much into that about the quality of your work. I would just pivot and send it someplace else, probably without even revising it. So when I say try again, that's what I mean. I mean, pivot, send it someplace else. Don't spend a ton of time revising. And especially if when you do number 2, right, which is analyze feedback, if you get feedback with your rejection and it leans towards differences in ontology or epistemology, then I would not address that feedback at all. And I would just send it someplace else. So especially if you feel confident in the qualitative rigor of your work which again, I recommend MITA's Qualitative Research Blueprint course if you don't, then it really is best not to spend a lot of time like overthinking, double thinking when you get rejected, and just submit it someplace else. All right, so those are my 5 pieces of advice for what to do when your qualitative article gets rejected. Number 1, think about fit. Number 2, analyze that feedback if you get any. Number 3, dig into interdisciplinarity. Number 4, double check rigor. And number 5, try again. All right, one more thing. If you're listening to this podcast, then you are probably a fan of audio. I know that I'm an avid podcast listener. I have a whole list of things. I have some that I listen to daily, others that I listen to on my walk. When I used to be driving kids to school before the pandemic, then I would listen in the car. So I want to introduce you to, if you don't know about it already, a new, I guess it's a social media kind of platform called Clubhouse. And Clubhouse is an audio social media platform. And what it does is it allows you to have live audio only conversations with people all around the world. So if you're not on Clubhouse yet, then go check it out. You can download the app from the App Store. For right now, you actually have to be on iOS. So you have to be on an iPhone or an iPad. But if that's you, go check it out and follow me at Kathy Mazak, just like I am everywhere, at Kathy Mazak. Follow me on Clubhouse because I am going to be doing live conversations, hosting live conversations about writing and career for academics. So you're definitely going to want to check that out. Thank you so much for spending your valuable time loving on yourself and your writing by listening to this episode. If you're feeling pulled in 1,000 directions and can't seem to carve out time to write, I've got a solution for you. Go grab my 10 ways to make time to write cheat sheet. Just go to kathymazak.com/podcast-time to learn my best quick tips for putting writing at the center of your career where it belongs. We'll link that up in the show notes. Just go to kathymazak.com/podcast-time.